a man who's got it made. Always looking for that renegade. I calls it like I sees it. A spade is a spade. A good man is a thing of yesterday. Yeah.
There he
Morning.
is, my man in Amsterdam.
Here you are live with my name is Sonny and this is my partner Cher.
You're Sonny and I'm Cher.
Absolutely. Maybe
Okay.
we could do. Well, I'm Donnie, you're Marie. I don't know.
All right.
I'm
That's what we have
Tango.
to
I'm
do.
Tango, you're Cash. No, no,
That's a
that's
little
better.
more appropriate.
I'm Turner, you're Hooch.
Uh,
You're
I'll be
Jake.
Turner. Want to
You're
be
Jake. I'm
Hooch.
the fat man. There's lots of them. There's lots of
All right.
them.
Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah, there we go. Starsky and Hutch.
Yeah,
I'm Sean. This is Chris. We are the
I am
Chivalrous
Chris.
guys.
Yeah.
Coming at you on March 23rd, 2026.
Couple days into spring. It's snowing here. How's the weather out there?
Snowing here as well.
Hmm.
Canadian
Yeah, it doesn't
spring.
really work. Somebody listened to the podcast recently. They didn't know the word chivalrous. They admitted to me they didn't know that word.
I believe it. I
So
believe
I
it.
thought that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we've taught people words. I know reverence was another one and something else. We had one other ones. And chivalrous, I think it's good that people don't know that word and now they're looking into what it means because it's an important word.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been
Just
getting,
teaching people words.
yeah, that's what we should call it. We should just read the dictionary. A, apple,
Teaching words
red
with
fruit.
Chris and Sean.
Every week we just read an hour out of the dictionary.
I don't know.
There's worse podcasts. It's
I
funny.
don't
And
think
this
so.
is, I won't talk about this because it's a private conversation we were having, but we were just talking about that podcast with Ricky Gervais. That was what they asked the guy if he got stuck on a desert island, what book he would take, and that's what he said, a dictionary. And they're like, by yourself. He goes, well, I want to improve my vocabulary. There's nobody to talk to.
That's hilarious.
Uh, anyway, that doesn't mean much to anybody else, but it is funny.
That's an interesting question, but I'm not sure I'm going to answer that one on our podcast
No,
today.
exactly. Well, we used to always do that. It used to be on the radio, the Desert Island discs, right? Like, what record would you take if you only had one record? And I always thought,
Okay,
well, I don't have a record player, so it's not really that doesn't really make much sense. But
right.
yeah, can I choose? Can I take my coffee maker if I have electricity instead of a record player? But
Yeah,
yeah, so last week we did our podcast on agency, and
yeah,
I had quite a few people text me on it.
good.
Guys, a group was talking about, he was laughing because he said, that YouTube video where there's one like, that's me. And I said, yeah, yeah. And I said, everyone listens, no one watches, but one girl, an ex, somebody I used to work with years ago, she came out and said it was pretty cool. She said, I was looking at agency, and she says, if you break it down to three words, it's age and see. So kind of like, age and see what happens. Like kind of like wisdom
No,
comes
good.
with age. I
I
kind of
like
like the
that.
breakdown. Yeah, it was cool. It was
Hmm.
cool. But yeah, some nice people talking about it. I actually listened to it because I was listening to my podcasts and it started playing. So I just let it kept playing. And
Okay.
yeah, I thought it came out good. I was proud of it. I thought it was a good episode. So
Yeah, me too. I think it's interesting to explore these topics, and because it's not something you always think about. And I find that for me, often the podcast is kind of organic. I stumble across something, and the next thing I know, we're doing a podcast on it. And it started with the TED Talk, um, and we've decided, kind of the new format that we'll kind of circle back. And the one thing that I did think about, because I listened to part of our podcast too, I didn't listen to all of it, but the thing that I wanted to circle back on was something that you said, and it was, I thought it was interesting the way you framed it, and I wonder whether there's a little bit of conversation around it. You said in the podcast that you have difficulty with authority.
hmm.
You remember?
Yes, I do.
And I wondered if, because I guess that you have a healthy respect for police, for example.
I do. I do.
Like, so they're an authority. So I don't like, I think, and maybe if you say, for example, you resonate with Mark Carney and you think he's a good guy, like, and he came over to you and said, "Hey, Sean, will you do this for me?" You probably wouldn't have a lot of difficulty with that authority.
No, I think, yeah, you're right. And I guess I don't have a difficulty with authority figures. I
Yeah,
don't have difficult with anybody if they're respectful to me and they're not taking away my
right,
rights. I don't like when
right,
people talk down to me or boss me around, or
right.
I don't like, and I don't like, I always got mad at seatbelt laws and helmet laws on my motorcycle. And I know that sounds crazy. I know, or
Yeah,
well, crazy is not a great word, but I know it doesn't sound sane, or like, but
yeah.
I just feel like I'm an adult. I live in a free country. My forefathers,
Yeah.
and I don't want to sound like a MAGA guy, but my forefathers came over here because they wanted to be free. They didn't want to live under a king. And
Mm,
I think at least it should be the majority votes. It shouldn't be someone up somewhere decides that, oh, now we have seatbelt laws for adults, not for children, but for adults, or now you have to wear
right.
a motorcycle helmet. Like, did we vote on this? Did we decide on this? Like, and I
Yeah.
remember even when I was a smoker, I'll never forget this. I was at a hockey rink where people were watching their kids play hockey, and everyone had to step
Hmm.
outside to smoke. So you see these dads out there smoking, and people walk by them,
Hmm.
give them a hard time, and tell them they were too close to the building, blah, blah, blah. And one woman was like, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
walking through this hail of smoke." I'm like, first off, we're outside. And I'm thinking, this father, this good father, is taking his time and effort to take his son to a hockey game and stay there with them and support them. But he stepped outside for a minute to have a cigarette, and you're giving him a hard time. It's like, go away, go away. You didn't walk through a cloud of smoke. I'm like, did you find your way? Do you need directions? Do you need a compass to get through this cloud of smoke? And
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. And I just remember working for LG years ago, and we got this new boss came over from a company we took over, and but he said something to me one day, and the rest of the guys were jumping. I looked at him, and I literally, and I'm not a violent guy. I said, if you talk to me like that again, I'm going to throw you through that window. And he looked at me
Right.
like, what? What? I said, go for it. Let's
Right.
see what happens. I don't know. But he talked to me like I was a
Yeah.
dog. I literally like, is there a dog behind me? Because you can't be talking to me. You can't be, you know. But if you come to me, and ask me to do something, like I said, you're respectful, or you're my boss, and it's a reasonable thing to ask. And of course, I don't mind that. I don't mind that. But I don't like just being told
Yeah.
to do blindly with no, you know, respect or reason or rationale. I really do struggle with that. So,
I think I think part of the reason why I wanted to bring it up is certainly, and this is something that I've been learning in coaching, is that there's an opportunity to reframe what your thought is, what you're saying. So when you said you have difficulty with authority, I think it's more about misalignment of values,
yes,
right?
yes.
So you know, and I think that there is, you know, obviously we talked a bit about it with agency. Like some people have the ability to have more agency in society, of course. Um, and you know, some people don't even have an opportunity to have difficulty with authority. It's just not even you can't even like there's limited opportunity for
Right.
that, right?
Right.
But
Exactly right.
I think that we've all found ourselves in places and times where our values misalign with whoever we're either working for or working with or whatever. And then that's when you have to kind of make a conscious decision around, is this something I want to continue to do or not? And I
And
think
it's
that
I think
that
you're
was an
you're
important
right.
kind
The
of
way I, the way I
reframing.
said the way I said it really wasn't what I meant. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, and that was, I
Um,
just wanted to reflect on that.
And I think I know so many situations where people are working for people that they are better qualified than their bosses. And that is a frustrating place where you're right. You've got a better idea and you have to listen to someone else tell you what to do and they're a dimwit. But um,
Yeah,
that's life. But you know what? I was thinking about agency too. I'm glad you brought that up because, there are people out there that are their own boss or they're billionaires or millionaires and they have agency over their whole life, especially financially, and they can, but But you know what? You and I were born with a lot of agency because we were white, we were men, we
Mm-hmm.
were even English, which is a dominant language in the. We were born in a free country. Like
Absolutely.
we were born
Sure.
with agency. Some people are born without it just because of the color of their skin or their sexual preference or where they're
Absolutely.
born or whatever.
Yeah.
So we were
Yeah.
very fortunate. So sometimes I get upset with myself because I feel like I've squandered a lot of the opportunity I had, and maybe that came from being complacent or spoiled a little bit or whatever. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, and whatever, you know, upbringing you had, whatever kind of values you were taught, and I think maybe it's a good segue to get to where what we want to be. I think it is about having strong willpower, or having understanding what it is that you want to do, having agency, and kind of figuring out that path and working towards it.
Yep. And
Right?
that is a good segue because today our subject is willpower, um,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
does relate a lot to what we've talked about already this year, our first couple podcasts. And do you have a definition for willpower?
I do. I have a few because there's I couldn't decide whether we were doing it on will or willpower, or so there's kind of
Well,
a lot. There's a lot in it.
I thought it was
Willpower,
willpower, but it could be will. I don't know.
I think they're kind of fall into the same category. But willpower refers to your ability to continue doing something in the face of adversity, distractions, or other challenges. Yeah, and will just simply refers to the power to choose your actions.
The power to choose your actions, will. Okay.
Yeah. Willpower also includes restraining impulses,
Yeah, that's a good one.
which I think is an important part of, what we've talked about in the past, um, and addiction stuff and other things that we'll talk about a little later. But restraining impulses maybe to drink or to stay in a comfort zone, to
Hmm.
avoid things that you were worried about, or there's a whole number
Oh
of
yeah.
different things that can
Yeah.
prevent,
I'm a big avoider
you
for
know
sure.
yeah. So a couple of other things. Will functions primarily as a modal verb to express the future intention or volition, and as a noun representing determination or choice, controlling one's actions, right? Will is the ability to choose action despite resistance. Will is acting in alignment with your values, not necessarily your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, I read that this morning on something you'd sent me. I like that one.
That's a big one, right?
It really is, yeah. I thought that
Because
resonated.
because I was kind of drilling into it, going like, what's the difference between motivation and will? But motivation is kind of like something energizes you. You're like, oh yeah, I'm totally motivated. I'm going to go do this.
Hmm.
But then that motivation can kind of, dissolve a little bit, and then what are you left with? You're like, oh shit, I don't feel like doing that anymore. I'm not motivated.
Yeah, and maybe tomorrow that motivation's not there or whatever was getting you going, or you've lost enthusiasm for it or whatever.
Right, right.
I think
And
willpower
then
is definitely a long game.
yeah, and this one's nice and simple because will versus agency, because we talked about agency. Agency is I can do this. Will is I will do this.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, isn't it?
Right? It's a bit, and it happens all the time when when you're kind of maybe put yourself on the spot, or you give yourself an opportunity to do something. You could say, I might do that, or you can say I will, and then you're almost holding yourself accountable,
I
right? It's like,
still
okay,
do it.
I will do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You call me up and you say, okay, let's organize a party for next Saturday, and I say I will organize a party for next Saturday. Well, I'm basically like giving you a guarantee that I'm going to do it.
And it's amazing too how there's people that if they say they will do something, that to me it's a lock. It's going to happen. I have no doubt. And there's other people say it and you don't, you're like, yeah, maybe you'll do it. Maybe you won't. Like they don't really mean it when they say
Right.
they'll do it. Um,
And why is that? Because they've proven in the past that when they say I will do something, they don't always
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, and I've got a couple people in my life like that. People I love, but they're like that, and they even then they start making like, well, I didn't say I was going to do it for sure. I thought it was a maybe. It wasn't definite. What are you talking about? It's like, no, I took it as we were going to do it, and you're acting now like it was a maybe, but we didn't say
You're
maybe.
backpedaling.
We said we were
Right.
happening, and I find that very frustrating. And with those people, I've learned to take it with a grain of salt, and
Mm.
I wouldn't want to be a person that other people took with a grain of salt. I would want people to believe me when I said something. I really would.
Sure.
I'm not sure
Yeah.
I'm always that person. I'd want to be that person, but I don't, I know I'm not always that person, unfortunately.
Well, and I think despite maybe if you have that feeling about someone, there is still opportunity to change that, you
Hmm.
know. And I think that this is an important thing to discuss when it comes to, building kind of a reputation of someone who has strong willpower. You can do it incrementally in small doses.
Yes.
It doesn't always have to be like big picture. I mean, a lot of things like when it comes to willpower is around like exercise and diet and commitment to certain things. But I think a lot of times it's like, okay, I want to really like get in good shape, and then you set this thing like I'm going to get up at 6 a.m. I'm going to work out an hour tomorrow, and I'm going to do. But I think sometimes you put too much pressure on yourself, and you're better off to just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to try to work out. Well, I will work out for 10 minutes. I will do 20 push-ups.
Right.
And then just circling back to what I said, like if you had a friend maybe that's let you down a few times, if you just commit to some small steps and show up, then that feeling that oh that person doesn't do what they say will start to kind of shift,
Exactly. And I
right?
don't think I don't think they mean anything by it. It's just a different way of looking at it, and maybe it's a different level of commitment. And it's not
Hmm.
necessarily important things, but
Yeah,
you were talking about motivation a minute ago, and I think that's what happens with exercise routines for one, is like, yeah, you are really motivated for a minute. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. I found this new and then the next day it's like,
yeah.
oh, and then the next day it's like, and then you just kind of you lose the motivation. So that's when your willpower fails you because you didn't really have the willpower to begin with. You just were excited for a minute. You got motivated for a minute. And I think that's what
Right.
happens with New Year's resolutions. People always make these
Yes.
giant New Year's resolutions. I've never done it because
Mhm.
I think, what would possibly be happening on January 1st that would make me a different person than I was on December 31st? I just don't believe it. Why put that kind of
Yeah.
pressure on yourself? Like, yeah, it's not if it's you like a bookmark on something or some whatever, but I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's become a practice, which I don't think is necessarily a bad practice because it's not happening, July. We all know that there is something about the new year starting fresh, coming up with something that maybe you've been avoiding that there's nothing wrong with. But yes, I agree that sometimes you're going from like complete black to complete white. Well, maybe you should start off with gray
Right.
and then work your way towards white. This is the thing, and I think that's the incremental steps, and I think it's a good opportunity to talk about some personal challenges, some personal things that we've overcome. So when I spent my good solid year drinking very heavily, there were a couple people in the building that I partied with sometimes, and there was a particular video that I remember that we were all getting drunk and we were dancing. And this person showed me the video the next day, and she's like, "What is with your stomach?" And like you can see, like my stomach was literally like I was like drinking so much white wine and stuff that I was bloated, like I was bloated. I looked
Distended.
like I was pregnant. And I don't it how did it make me feel? It made me feel shame. I felt shameful. I was like, "Fuck, buddy! Like, look at your stomach. You look like fucking shit. Like, what are
Mm,
you doing?" Right? And I've seen a couple of other pictures of me since then. And I was like, "That is terrible." So, I've always sort of enjoyed working out. It's never really been my jam, but I'm aware that this kind of action, it makes you feel better about yourself. If that's what makes you feel better, it's nice, like you said yourself. It's nice to take off your shirt at the beach and look and feel good about yourself. So I
it
was
is.
like, okay, I'm gonna work on getting my stomach back to flat. Well, quitting drinking was the first step. That wasn't easy, but I managed that one. And then it just slowly, it's slowly, the stomach goes away almost by itself for a while. But
Right.
yeah, then it's like, okay, what exercises can I do that are going to help me have a flatter stomach? And then I look into that in a kind of a scientific way. I'm like, okay, what are the best three core exercises? And then I start to try to employ those. But even that takes time. Some days I do it, some days I don't do it. But then as you begin to build momentum and you start, and look, that video was taken, I don't know, it's coming up on 4 years ago. And I wouldn't say I'm exactly where I want to be, but I'm closer. So it's 4 years in the making. It didn't happen overnight.
Right.
You're not going to get a flat stomach overnight. But in a way, I'm grateful that A, that person pointed that out to me, and B, that I've had the will to go, okay, I can make that change and I can do this. I'm not going to beat myself up if I don't do this every day, but I want to move towards this.
Right.
And when you have the will to move towards something and you figure it out and you take actionable steps that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy them, it's really hard to force yourself to do it.
It is. And incremental steps are
So,
so important, like you just said, because if you think about anything, when you start exercising, and I've been doing it lately for my leg, um,
yeah,
nothing happens. You're just sore, like no changes happen. But then,
it's slow.
a few days go by and you feel like, ah, that was a little bit easier. I'm not quite so sore. And you
Yeah.
can keep going or you can stop. But if you keep going, I always think of that. What happens in 6 months? What happens if you said 4 years? If I exercise every day like I've been doing for 4 years, I will be in a
Right.
place that's going to be incredible 4 years from now. Now,
Yeah.
and 4 years flies. It goes slow, but it flies.
It
Four
does.
years will be
It
it'll be
does.
it'll be 2030 before we blink, man. It'll be here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can do so much incrementally. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
always been the way that I'm more like I want instant gratification. And that's what an addict's like anyway. We want instant fix, instant fix. And I've always been
It,
like that.
it's so relevant in today's society though, because everything is in the palm of our hand all the time. There's this instant gratification. Do I want some pleasure? Okay, here, no problem. I have a phone. Do I want some like, you know, do I want to see somebody who's really rich or yeah, that's just it's all there. It's all there all the time, right?
I
So
want information. I mean, it used to be you and I would think of a word, say whatever that word is, reverence, and we would talk about it. Well, what does that word mean?
hmm,
I'm not sure. Here's what I think it means. We would have an hour-long conversation. And now you go, wait a minute. Oh, there's what it is. There's
yeah, we'd have to
right
go to the
there.
library and look it up.
No,
We'd just get yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
Nothing. And it's
No, it's
it
all
has
Google.
it
Yeah,
does
so
dissuade conversation. It does. It's like I've actually sometimes my wife, even for trying to think of what's that guy's name that was in that movie, I will say, let's not look. Let's try to remember.
yeah,
Let's try to figure it out. Like why
yeah.
not take a minute here? So
Yeah. So why don't you, I mean, you can give us some good examples of some willpower that, I saw your post last week. You were walking for the first time. Let's give a little bit of a shout out. Congratulations for that one, right?
uh, yeah, no,
Yeah.
listen, it did take a lot of willpower. And it was a good example in a couple different ways about our conversation this morning because, yes, that was an 8 month process to get to that point. I mean, when my
Right.
leg got cut off, it was raw and mean and open and sore. And And then we had to get over the financial thing to get to that point and get the funding and then get to myself on the point that I was good enough shape to do that. We exercised, we got fittings, we blah, a lot of stops, a lot of things went to that. And then I got
Mhm.
up on that leg and they told me I'm going to do 3 or 4 laps. And they said, but you're not letting go of the bars. We're not going to let you do that today. No one lets go of the bar the first day. And I just
Mhm.
kept going and pushing and like, I want to let go of the bar. I want to let go of the bar. So she said, okay, let go of the bar. And then I did a bunch of laps without the bar. And I was so proud of myself, way above
Yeah.
average. It was
Right.
a great moment. But when I sat down to take, she said, you got to take a break. Buddy,
Yeah.
it was like my soul had been punched out of me. I've never felt that kind of exhaustion. It was a different kind of exhaustion, mentally, physically. I did not go back up because it was just like, but they said for what I was doing, it's like 80% more effort than you walking. It was just because you got to keep your butt tight and you got to keep your leg underneath and you got to sway this leg a certain amount and you got to walk straight ahead and you're thinking about 20 different things and keep your balance. And there's mirrors in front of you because you don't want to look down because you'll start to go forward and might fall over, right? So you're thinking so hard, concentrating on trying to get it right. And I also want to do good. I've always been that way. Like I want to show people that I can do it. Um,
Yeah.
so I I was very happy with that. It took a lot of willpower. But then where I
Yeah.
found where I was letting myself down and other people down was because everybody was so happy for me and like, what a great day, what a great day. And I was having mixed emotions. I was like, it is a great day. I'm standing again. But
Yeah.
I'm scared of what I got coming up, which is 5 or 6 weeks of this stuff to try to get ready. I realized right
Right.
away that it's not like getting your leg back. It's not the same. It's a new
Yeah.
existence. It's better than a wheelchair, but it's not like having your leg back. And maybe time will change that. But right now, it's going to be like, I was kind of like, this did not feel as good as I'd hoped it was going to feel. I really hoped it was going to be a little more like walking, and that disappointed me. Um, but my wife had a long talk with me, and she was right. She said, "You're being way too hard on this whole situation. Like it was only your first time. Like let's get going here. Like let's give it a
Hmm.
minute." Because I also met a guy in the lobby that had been on a prosthetic leg for 54 years. 54 years. And he was telling me how
Right.
much change there'd been in 54. He basically had a table post nailed to his leg 54
Well,
years.
yeah, that's you talked about that early on. You were going to have a table
Yeah,
leg.
exactly. Exactly. Well, I know
Yeah.
lots of people in the furniture business, so it'd be a nice leg.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
But yeah, so we should have another podcast called Mixed Emotions. It was all over the place, and
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, aren't the mixed emotions a little bit about your expectations, I guess? Like you had some expectations about how it would feel, I guess, and then it didn't necessarily feel the way you thought it
yeah,
might, right?
yeah, and there's a lot of steps. You got to wear your silicone sleeve, and then you put your leg in, then you pull another sleeve over it, and you have socks that change this how
Yeah.
your leg is, and it's a new life.
So,
But
what would it have been like? How would it have been different if you had no expectations going there?
probably would have been all positive. I'd probably been like, oh my gosh, I'm standing. Um, I don't know. And you know what? It's a thing you cannot learn until you do it. And I hope you never, and I hope nobody I know ever has to go through it because what would I know about walking on a prosthetic leg? I know as much as you
Right.
know, Chris. I don't know. That was my first time doing it.
Yeah.
I have no
You
idea.
know,
No idea.
what it reminded me of when you told the story about how you kind of like collapsed after and you kind of overdid it by the sounds of it. It reminded
Yep.
me of Grogu. It reminded me of Grogu in The Mandalorian at first when he's like he's doing it and then he just got like he goes to sleep. That's
Yep.
it. That's all
Just
I
gone.
got.
Gone. And I was gone. That's what it was. And I was gone all weekend. Like I could now, thankfully, my wife didn't guilt. She's like, I didn't do any exercises right away, but the next day she had you do exercise in the day. I said, there's no way I'm exercising today. Like I am
Right.
beat. And she says, well, I'm doing mine. And I was watching her do hers, and I went, okay, well, I'll do some of them. And I got down on the
Okay.
floor and I stretched it out and I did my exercises. And then the same thing happened yesterday. I was like, I can't do them today, but I said I'll do some. And I got down and I did them. So I got a great partner. She knew how to get me going,
Yeah.
really tell me what to do, right? She just kind of led by example and away we went. So I managed to get my exercises done and I'm going to do them again today. And then tomorrow. That's it. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, I start, and I'm going to be doing it 5 or 6 weeks every day at the hospital with this guy that's supposed to be the best, and he's going to teach me how to use this thing. So I'm going to be tired, I imagine, but
Well, on that, you know what? That's a good kind of segue or information piece to say, like, if you're lacking some willpower in your life, it's always good to have somebody else like have some accountability too, right?
absolutely.
I mean, there's countless running groups in every single town where people they just they don't have the motivation or the will to run on their own, so they join a group, and now you're kind of like you may not even know them at first, but you show up and they're like, oh, great. And then you show up the next week and then you're great. And then, and then you start to build this kind of rapport and you start to build this, like, there's an accountability, right?
Yeah, you kind of borrow
Um,
someone else's willpower for a bit until you have your own, you know? You kind of just,
which I think, yeah, which I think is good. And that there's certainly something to be said for, most addiction programs, where, and that's a whole other thing. I know we've talked about this in the past, but you talk about our own will versus God's will. Like I know this might be a little bit of a touchy subject for you, but um, that's something that you kind of learn when you go into AA, and that's kind of like this idea that we kind of let our egos go a little bit, and that we just kind of go with the flow a bit. And to me, God is, we've talked about this, God is love. So if we follow the will of love, then we'll be in a positive place. But again, this idea that that's kind of learned behavior, um, when you're getting sober, and maybe you don't have the willpower to get sober, but you go and you spend time with other people who are sober, and there's a certain amount of accountability when you get into a program that is super important. No question about it. I certainly I
absolutely.
got that when I went there, so I'm sure you did too.
Yeah, I think accountability is almost could be a topic because um, accountability, we talked about, or I did last week when I said, I used to go to Weight Watchers. You had to be accountable to the person weighing you, and it gave me more motivation. And it's
Yeah.
amazing when in an addiction group, I run one, but it's like, it's amazing how quickly you're the guy that just got clean and you're there and you're scared and you're listening to other people that are years clean and you're like, oh wow, imagine being that clean, right? Now I'm nine
Yeah.
years clean and there's people looking at me going, 9 years, it's incredible, right? And
For
there's
sure.
people at
Yeah.
every level. Um,
Yeah.
but addiction, I wanted to, I was going to talk about it in a minute, we'll talk about it now, but addiction to me can be the greatest examples of willpower in a couple different ways because when you are in active addiction, you
Hmm.
have no willpower. The drug has all the power, period. I mean, when I was an addict,
Yeah.
I wasn't making any decisions. The only decision I made was where are my drugs, and my drugs made every other decision. And they were just like, come on, Sean, this is what we're doing. Where's your drugs? Where's your drugs? Where's your drugs? I didn't care about anybody else, anything
Mm.
else, just where's my drugs? So I lost all my willpower. It was gone. Now, I wish I had noticed it earlier, but I hadn't. So by the time I realized time I was an addict, it was too late. Um, but then to overcome an addiction, that is, in
Mm.
my opinion, the ultimate of willpower. Because not only are you trying to convince yourself that you're going to do this, you're also beating back the drug that is telling you you're not going to do it. And then you're getting
Yeah.
negativity, some positive support around the world from friends, family, but some negative support too. Like, I can't believe you did this, and I can't believe you let yourself, and you're so weak to let that happen. And you got to stand up on your own 2 feet and say, no, no more. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And
Right. Yeah.
well, I know the withdrawals and the hell you would go through, which we've talked about lots. I won't talk about it again, but it takes every bit of willpower, and then it takes willpower times 100 because then you have to stay clean every day,
Hmm.
every day. It's not just like
Hmm.
you, hey, I did it. Like, no, you did it, but you got to do it again tomorrow and tomorrow. And I talk about in groups sometimes when you're suffering that you have to beat it by the second. I remember telling
Yeah.
myself, I'm going to stay clean for 15 more seconds. That's it, 15 more seconds. Then you go 15 more, 15 more, a minute
Yeah.
more. But
For
those were
sure.
tricks you had to do. But it was to kind of get your willpower back. You had to get there
For
till you
sure.
got it back, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
willpower when it comes to to beating an addiction or living with an addiction is key. It's pretty important to have some will.
No question about it. And I think you said a couple of interesting things. And I again, just want to circle back on this one, but um, you said drugs had the control. And I understand what you mean. But there's almost when you say that, there's almost like you're almost accepting that you had lost your ability to have your own will
I, I
in
think
that.
I did. I believe that.
Yeah.
While I
Yeah.
was using, I really
Yeah.
believe drugs were controlling it.
And I get that. And I think, yeah, for me, consuming alcohol on a daily basis to the amount, to the degree that I did, I had determined that I needed that in order to survive until the destructive force of it became so great that if I didn't get rid of that, I was going to die.
Hmm.
So, it's going along great until it's like, no, this isn't going. And I think that there's something important. There's a couple of things too that you said in there that, again, and we touched on this earlier, that will is about incremental changes. So when you first start out and you're first sober, it's like, of course, we know the saying, one day at a time. But as you mentioned, it's like a second at a time, it's a minute at a time. And literally, there are times where it feels like that, where it's like, oh, I just got to get through this hour. There was a lot of time in early sobriety where I would sleep away the afternoons because I was like, okay, just sleep, like just sleep,
I
and
just
then
need
it'll
time
be
to
night, and
pass. I
then
just need time to go by.
absolutely. Um, but it is again going back to that idea that, yeah, the will to change superseded the will to consume, because I was like, if I keep consuming, I'm gonna die. So it's like, okay, this isn't working. So again, like, willpower can often come from a situation where things have gotten so bad that you have to change, right? And I think, you know, maybe trying to avoid that going forward is like a really good thing. It's like, okay, and I mean, we've talked openly, and we'll talk openly. The will for you to change some of your habits, maybe with your diabetes, because they weren't showing up in your life, was like, oh, this is no big deal. I got this. Until, of course, your legs started to give out, and then suddenly you faced again this moment where it was like, I don't have a choice. I'm going to lose my leg, and now then that perpetuated the will to now do the exercises to get the leg, right? So incremental steps, I think, is super important to talk about, but also, to try to avoid possibly getting to these rock bottom moments to incite change, and incite the will to change. I think that's sort of
Yeah,
sort
and
of
and
something.
and you made me just think of something. Well, one, maybe I didn't say what I wanted to say right. The drugs are in control with me, but I always looked at it as you have yourself and your addicted self. So your addicted self
Yeah,
is running the show at some point. But,
yeah,
you know, it's too bad, and maybe and I was going to talk about my diabetes and what leading to me losing my leg. It's too bad that
I don't.
sometimes my willpower, it takes something so drastic for it to kick in. Like, there's a lot of people that when they were told they were diabetic when they were 25 would be like, okay, that's it, man. No more sugar for
For
me.
sure.
I'm exercising. I'm not, my sugars go over 7, never again. And I've seen people do it,
Yeah,
and it's actually a friend of mine did it that way. It's incredible. I
yeah,
did it, and I was like, okay, well, I'm diabetic. I wonder what this is going to mean, you know? And I took a couple pills, and days went by, years went by, and I never felt much different. It never seemed to really affect my life. I wasn't getting sick, I wasn't getting ill, and I got to just like, yeah, I know my sugars are running 10 or 11, but I don't know. And I used to say this all the time. Well, I'm a big guy. My sugars just run higher than most people. It was just bullshit. It's bullshit. But I
right.
justify whatever.
Yeah.
And then,
Hmm.
like you said, and then I start getting sores on my legs and I start having problems. And then I get infections and I'm on antibiotics for years and I'm wearing steel things on my leg and all the stuff we all know about I went through. And then I'm losing
Right.
my leg. And now I got to find the willpower to walk again. But if I'd had some
Hmm.
willpower back when I was 25, I probably wouldn't be doing any of
Hmm.
this. I'd probably still be standing on my own two legs, you know? So it's a good
Right.
lesson for people. Um, but the last thing I want to touch on, and I want before I go back to you, is you were talking about you were drinking and you had to find
Mhm.
the will to do this, you were going to die. Well, I think getting clean is literally deciding, do I have the will to live or am I have the will to die?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
that's what it was going to be. We both faced it.
yeah,
If we'd have kept going,
yeah,
we were going to die, one way or the other.
yeah,
Either by
yeah.
my own hand or I was my heart. You know, a lot of times in opiates, you take too much that you everything slows down so much that you just don't wake up. You know, and alcoholics can
Yeah.
literally. I know a guy that does it. I've seen it in my family that literally drink themselves to death. You
Hmm.
die. Period. Your
Yeah.
your body
Yeah,
shuts
for
down.
sure.
So
Yeah.
you gotta, it's almost like having the will to live. My favorite saying from Shawshank, get busy living or get busy dying. Like decide. And that's where we become as addicts. And it's the will to live. And human
Yeah,
beings have a, not necessarily me, but human beings have a will to live that is unbelievable. You know,
for
from
sure.
wars, from what people go through atrocities, through just sicknesses and losing kids and just blah, 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 blah. And
Hmm.
they still
Hmm.
want to live. I've watched movies on atrocities, real life stories, and I think, what made that person get up in the morning? What gave them the will to even wake up in the morning that they didn't just go put a rope around their neck or something? Excuse me for talking about suicide, but what gave them the will to live? But people, human beings, and animals, you see animals struggle and, nature, and the will to live is, I think, monumental. I think it's huge what most people have.
Yeah, and I think that there's something very curious about what that is. Like, where does that come from? I think that some of that for sure is learned. I think some of that comes just from something within, some need to kind of to carry on, some inner voice that says, I can do this. What, can I can change my life, my other people's lives, maybe. I mean, we've talked about people like Nelson Mandela on the show, who was in prison for 27 years, something that he didn't even do, had really no idea whether he would ever get out. And then gets out and then just kind of, denounces his captors, like I forgive you, and just carries on, and then shows that he's like, a symbolic figure when it comes to peace.
Becomes the
And yeah,
president, you know.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. And I think, again, I think sometimes it could be learned behavior, which we've talked about. Maybe somebody in your life early on instilled kind of this really strong will, but I think oftentimes it's incremental. Like, it's like you kind of, you decide, okay, I don't want to be this anymore, and I make the changes. David Goggins, I don't know. Do you know David Goggins?
I recognize the name, but I'm
Like a
not.
super fitness guy. Like, he's run ultra marathons. He
Okay.
became he became a Navy SEAL. He was 300 pounds. He was facing kind of imminent death, and he just kind of one day snapped, and he was like, all right, I got to lose the weight. He did, and then he's kind of a renowned fitness guy, and um, yeah, I think that it's within it. It's in everyone. There's this will in everyone to kind of um,
Is it an
be the
instinct,
best
you think?
person.
You think it's instinctual maybe in this? Like you see
I think
homeless,
it probably
you see
is.
unhoused person on the street and they
Yeah,
they still get up every day and live every day and they just have nothing
yeah,
and they're treated like just it's just awful and they still
yeah,
survive.
yeah,
Survival. It's
yeah,
and even like I'm thinking of a couple examples as we're talking. Like look at I think a lot about the president of Ukraine. I mean,
yeah.
when Russia attacked
Zelensky.
them, it should have been easy to give up. It would have been like we can't. This is Russia.
Hmm.
We can't beat them. I mean, it's been
Yeah,
years now, and they are still like fighting their hardest. And or if you go back to a personal hero of mine, whether he deserved it or not, was Winston Churchill. I always liked Winston Churchill, and his own government was telling him to just give in and sign a treaty with our guy that was running the war, Germany, um,
hmm,
and and he would not do it. He would not do it. He said, "We
hmm,
are not signing that. We are not giving in. We are going to fight no matter what. And he gave that big speech. We'll fight on the hills. We'll fight. I mean, that is will. That is will, man.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, I think I want to circle back to, to the diabetes thing because, you know, and also want to add like the fact that, you have kids and a family. Like, do you think okay, so first question is what do you think prevented you from making the changes in your diet? Like, was it just that you just like
Careless.
the symptoms weren't really showing up?
They weren't really showing up. I mean, I was overweight. I it bothered me more being overweight, like the way my clothes felt and the way I looked. It was all very shallow and superficial the way I felt. That's what bothered me. But
Mm-hmm.
um
But it wasn't enough to
it wasn't
motivate
enough. I
change.
hated exercise, and to this day I hate exercise and never wanted to go for a walk. I'm not an outdoorsy guy. I didn't want to work out. Um And it's like those things, the more overweight you get, the harder it is. Like you just said about that
Mm,
guy that became a Navy SEAL, what he must have overcome because like just moving some days, you know. Now
yeah.
I would find willpower in some places, like, when it was time to go to a furniture show, I remember going and putting on a suit and standing on my feet for like 7 days in a row for 18 hours a day. And I mean, by the fourth day, like
So
Chris, I couldn't stand up.
for money, so you do it for money,
For money. Well, again, in my mind was to support my family and didn't want to let my bosses down
safety,
and
security. Sure.
everything,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
but I would have days where I would literally say, okay, I'm going to need 2 hours to first get my feet to touch the floor and manage to make it to the washroom because they're so
Hmm.
sore, and then
Yeah.
will it so I just kind of get in motion and then get to and then I'd be sweating and be uncomfortable, but I'd still do it because I felt I
Yeah.
had to do it. But then to change that into willpower, it makes me sound kind of dumb as I'm talking about it, but I just to just take care of myself,
Yeah.
just
Well,
wouldn't do it.
when you say something like "I hate exercise," like
I do.
you've but think about that statement. Like, it's why? Why do you hate exercise?
I'm lazy. I'm lazy. I mean, as a kid,
Well,
I was a toothpick as a kid, but I mean, I would go on my bicycle and I'd drive 40 kilometers. I couldn't care less. It wasn't exercise. It was getting around. It was motivation. I wanted to do something, right? But as soon as
right.
like I went on the road when I was 19. I got a car. I started eating McDonald's every day for lunch and drive through. I was go, go, go. I quit smoking and my
Yeah.
weight would just climb up. And I think they used to say I had a hollow leg, so I ate whatever I wanted to as a kid. I never gained a pound. I was couldn't gain weight when I
Yeah.
wanted to. And then I gained so much so fast and I just couldn't change who I was. Like I always ate what I wanted and then I couldn't. And
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's I wish I could figure it out. I wish I had figured it out. It makes me sound kind of, I don't know.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, to me, it's just learned behaviors, right? I mean, somebody else has taught that, it's important to love exercise and that you'll feel great and you'll do it. And then you say every day to yourself, "Oh, I love exercise. I love doing it." Whereas for whatever reason, you were like, "I hate exercise." And so now you continue to compound it by saying, "I hate exercise," right? Yeah, I mean, I love the Bruce Lee quotes. I see them all the time, the motivational quotes. Like he says, never talk badly about yourself. So don't say I hate myself. Say I love myself. Say I love exercise. Like it's like, there are so many ways to kind of retrain yourself. I mean, if somebody said, "Hey, if you exercise 3 hours a week, Sean, for the next 10 years, you're going to be, whatever, 185 pounds. You're going to be buff. You're going to take your shirt off at the beach. Your stomach's going to be flat. Like, could you do it? I mean, like, would you say, okay, like I can do that? Or would it just be like, I guess it's about motivation, right? It's about what is your end goal and what is will going to provide me if I do it, what is it going to get me at the end? And is it worth it?
Based on past behavior, I would say I probably wouldn't do it, but
Mm,
um, I would like to think I would do it 3 hours a week. I would like to think I would do it. I've
hmm
never done
hmm
it in the past, but this
hmm
might be a changing point in my life. Like I've been exercising
Yeah.
lately. Maybe I will figure it out. And I know being lighter will definitely help my walking. Being heavier does not help walking on a fake leg. Um,
Right.
and I don't want to get sicker because, I'll be honest, I'm having a lot of problems with my other leg. I mean,
Yeah. No,
my health didn't just improve. Like I'm having the
I
same
know. I mean,
same issues are happening over here that were happening here. And I don't want to
yeah.
be a double amputee. I don't.
I'm not surprised to hear that. Of course, I was there. I saw you a couple years ago. I know one foot was worse, but the other foot wasn't great. So
Exactly.
it's like, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, these are real things. And I wrote down the five enemies of will just so that we, kind of just stay on topic and address these things. But the first one is comfort addiction. So we all like comfort. I mean,
Hmm.
that's an easy one. We like to watch TV in the evening, or we like to eat certain food, and we like to do this, and exercising and these are the things. They're not very comfortable at times, right? So that's number one. Number two is fear, just simply the fear of failure or of judgment or of rejection. Three is a lack of purpose. For me, that's usually the bigger one. That's the one. Four is emotional avoidance, and five is broken self trust. So that we talked about that a bit earlier when you kind of just let yourself down. You're like, I'm going to exercise, and you do it for a week, and then you blow it off for 3 days, and you're just like, all right, fuck it, I can't do it. But that lack of purpose one, I think that's the big one. And there was one question that I didn't ask on last week's podcast, but it was in my list of questions, and it was something along the lines of if you stayed exactly the same as you are right now in 5 years, would you and did so for 5 years, would you be happy with who you are in 5 years? And that I guess that's
No,
that there's some
I wouldn't
yeah.
be.
So then there has to be some will
But
to
I
change
wasn't
in
happy
there.
with myself 5 years ago. I wasn't happy with
Right.
myself 20 years ago. And you just said, I think the comfort's a big part. Like I would be out on the road and hating my clothes not fitting, hating the way I feel and all that. But I get on home when I had something to do, when I had time to do something about it, and I would like put on my sweatpants and turn on the TV and we'd make a pizza. And so it's like the two things never
Mm.
computed. Like where I was
Yeah.
the place I was comfortable, I didn't do anything. And then I was out here, it was like too late. Like I didn't do anything about it,
Right.
right? And I would get to
Right.
the hotel every night instead of going to exercise, and I would order a pizza or a donair or something, and do take the easy
Mm.
way out. But
Yeah.
but to say something nice about myself, I did become a father at 19, and I had the
Yeah.
willpower to take care of my family and to
Yeah.
give up some of my dreams that I had and go make sure that my kids had a house and food and my wife did and that we did it together. Of course, she was a big part of it, but you know,
Yeah.
and I remember even when I was working for my dad and they would do product knowledge sessions and I was scared to death to do it. And then he got in an accident and I had to take over. And I remember sitting outside, I've told the story, listening to Eminem, like, lose yourself. Like, I got to do this. I got to do
Yeah.
this. I got to
Yeah.
do this. And I willed
Yeah.
myself to standing there. And they say one of the biggest fears is public speaking. And I did not want to do it. And I made
Yeah.
myself do it. And I got really good
Right.
at it. And I'm a good public speaker today because of it. But that takes willpower. I could have.
Yeah.
I could have gone the other way that day, and I probably never would have survived. I probably not in
For
this
sure.
business. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I never would have made
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I think,
I didn't
yeah.
never have willpower. Sorry. Yeah.
No, of course you didn't. I think that you've had plenty of willpower in your life. And I think that the important part of this conversation is to focus on that. Like to say, I have proven that I have willpower. Have I done it in every aspect of my life? Okay, whatever. That doesn't. It's like if you know you can do it, you can apply it to other things. I mean, and I mentioned that. I think having a family, there can be more motivation in that, and there can be more willpower because you have to take care of other people. There's no like, you know, uh, as a single man at this point, like I mean, I'm in a relationship, but I don't have a lot of responsibilities to anyone really but myself. And so, left to my own devices, and sorry, I'll just finish up on your thought, but you summoned the courage to do something that you were uncomfortable with, and you did it in a certain way by listening to Eminem, which is great. It's a great example of, that how he did that in his life. And I think he's an excellent example of somebody who basically took a pretty shitty situation and turned it into something very great. And so we see examples of that all the time. Um, and again, these are things that you can use as fuel to say, okay, I can draw on that past strength, and I can become a better person as a result of it. You know, if I going back to the 5 year thing, if I reflect back on where I was 4 years ago, I was getting up in the morning, I was drinking in the morning, I was eating like total shit. I never exercised. I laid on the couch all fucking day watching TV. So if I reflect on where I am today, I get up in the morning, I pray, I meditate, I work out, I eat well, I don't drink. I do a lot of different things that I'm super fucking proud about. And I did those things not just on my own. I've had help, no question about it. I've been accountable to other people, but mostly to myself. And you know, those changes, I feel good about those changes. I don't want to go back to that life, just as you don't want to go back to the life of chasing around on a Sunday night, driving around for 6 hours looking for opioids. No,
Exactly.
you've gotten past that. So, you know, in those first months, it was minute to minute, but now 9 years later, you're like, those habits are gone. I will never go back to those.
Yeah, knock on
So,
wood. I hope not. Yeah.
yeah, these are the things. Unless, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine why. Anyway, that
No,
I don't even
no,
want
no,
to talk
no. I
about
get
it.
what you're
But
saying.
the thing is, like, once you start to put these things into place and they become habits and they become like feelings of like, this is good. I feel good doing this. Even though I used to hate exercise, now I actually like it because I like the way I look and I like the way I feel. You know, so there's a lot of like in your head stuff, and then there's a lot of putting it into practice. And I think those are the two, you know, these are the two things that are really important about developing a strong will. And then also just finally going back to that one thing is because I think this is an area where I've struggled. It's a lack of purpose. So finding purpose to your will. So what is the purpose for eating better? What is the purpose for exercising? What is the purpose of meditating? Meditating for me, it's peace. Exercising, it's to live as long as I can and feel good. Eating well, it's yeah, it's fuel for your body, and so for me, those have all become things. But there are all lots of blockages to those too. That
Yeah.
comfort thing, that fear thing. There's all kinds of stuff. So
And
it's
we can
multifaceted.
and we can get in slumps like bad. Like I had like a 20-year slump or whatever. You could get, and where your negativity feeds more negativity, and you get so down on yourself, and you can't do it. And like, and the ultimate is suicide. Unfortunately, people that just can't take it anymore. And I've been there. And but I try to think of that the times I've really felt that way. What if I had done it? Like what have I missed? And I can start thinking, naming things that I've missed, good things in my life that I thought I wouldn't have been here for that moment. Like it's sad,
Yeah,
and I think about my mom and the moment she has missed out on, and I feel bad for her that she wasn't here because
yeah,
life
of
got in
course.
her way. But there's got to be, and smarter men than us have discussed this, but there's got to be some reason why certain people, like I said, if you want to talk about diabetes, why I react one way and someone else reacts another way. Why with addiction, some people go so far and then we get better, and other people just end up homeless and have nothing. Like, and of
Yeah,
course, it's a lot of it is how we're brought up and what we've dealt
yeah,
with, and
yeah,
even how we're built genetically, how our brains work, I mean, it's on and on and
yeah,
on and on. That's what makes the world
yeah.
go round. We're all different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
It's
it's not
training,
black
it's
and white.
mindset, it's a lot of different things, you know.
Example.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, there's only been one brief period in my life where I've ever taken any kind of medication. So if somebody said, okay, listen, here are your choices. You can either take medication for the rest of your life for this, or you can do this. I'm going to choose this. I'm not going to do that. That's just how I am and who I am. It doesn't.
Right. And
I'm not saying anything
I
against
take a
you.
handful of meds every day.
It doesn't matter. Like, and that's I'm not
No, I know you're
judging
not.
that. I'm just
Yep.
saying that everyone and that's just the way. Whatever. That's just my process. So, but I thought it was important what you just said there about everybody gets in slumps because I think this is the one of the things about where willpower really lands. It's like willpower is that in those moments of adversity and distractions and that you keep going. It's like, okay, I'm going to start running every day. And then you wake up one morning and it's fucking pouring rain. And you're like, yeah, today I'm not going to do it. That,
Yeah.
that's the willpower moment.
Because one
Because
day
when,
will lead to two, and two will lead to four, and then it'll be a week, and it'll be a month, and
yeah,
you're not doing it
because,
anymore.
and the flip, there's that fork in the road. And the flip side of that fork in the road is that if you do go out in the pouring rain and you do come home soaked, and you get in the shower and you're just like, wow, that was fucking awesome. Wow, I did it. That's when things start to build.
Right. You find the high in
You're
the
like,
success. Yeah.
all right, you know, and it's a small victory, right?
And it's
And
incredible.
I think,
I had a friend of mine get in really good shape, was at the gym, was dieting, special diets. I mean, he transformed himself to the point that you thought, well, this guy's changed for life. But then he let it slip
hmm
here and there, a day, a week, a month,
hmm
and it
hmm
all came back and he's not doing it anymore. And it's to think how hard he worked and then let it
yeah,
go. I mean, I remember my dad when I was a kid was running marathons. Like he was running all the time and then he just stopped. Like he just
yeah,
stopped. I
yeah.
don't know. I don't know. It's funny. It's funny.
Oh, yeah, and life changes. I mean, yeah, I've run a couple of marathons myself, been on a couple of like pretty cool bike trips, and I when I think about motivation and willpower when I was thinking about it this week. Those are great examples that I can lean on and go, oh, I did that. I did that. I trained for that, and and those moments felt good. And so I think, yeah, I think
I got caught in a couple
focusing on,
terms. Like I'm a homebody. Like, but I am. I am a homebody. I always, when I was a kid, I couldn't wait to come home from school, put on my pajamas, and go in my mom's room, turn on the TV, watch Spider-Man. Like I could. That was my comfort. I always wanted to be home and my like
mm.
cozy. I never wanted to go out, and I owned Harleys, and I would never drive them enough because I didn't want to go. I wanted to be home. Like it was crazy, man. Like, but that's an excuse. It's just it becomes an
Yeah. Do you want to
excuse.
be a homebody? Like, is that
I
like? I
don't
mean,
know. I don't
or
particularly
could
want to
you,
go out. I mean, I did
and
lots of,
then,
I lived a life. I mean, I used to go to concerts and everything else and movies every week. And yeah, finances have stopped a lot of that, but I stopped anyway. I didn't want to go anymore. Like I get, so I don't even want, people aggravate me. I just want to be around my wife. And like, it's not a, I don't know. It's not, I'm not a social butterfly. I'm just not. I don't really want to
and
be
yet,
around a bunch of people.
yeah. Yeah, and yet there are obviously a lot of wonderfully, incredibly interesting, beautiful people out there. So, you
No,
can
I
say
don't
things
know
like,
any.
geez, don't eh?
I thought you'd
Maybe
pick
you
up on
just need to,
that.
you should get, you
Can't think of
should get
any.
inside more.
No, can't think of any.
You don't know
You're
any.
right.
Look in the
Listen,
mirror.
you miss out, right? So, couple things
Yeah.
before we got to go. I
Yeah.
just made some notes that I don't
Yeah.
want to forget to talk about. It's funny. I was looking
Please.
at some of our outline, and I thought, you know, why we know what to do but don't do it, which we've discussed in
Yeah.
detail. But it reminded me
Yeah.
of that song "New World Man" by Rush, one of my old favorite songs, and it was like, he's old enough to know what's right and young enough not to do it. That always stuck with
Right.
me, right? And wise enough to win the world, but fool enough to lose it. Like that's mankind.
Right.
That's man in a nutshell. Very well said, right? Um, and I don't know. I think I could have talked for 4 more hours. I didn't even get to half of my notes. But
Well, yeah. Any
a
particular things? I mean,
couple things struck me was one, I care too much what people think about me, which sounds crazy, but I do. And that's been a negative in my life. I shouldn't care so much about what people think about me. So sometimes I'll
how
avoid
does,
doing something because I'm scared they're going to see me how I do it or how I look doing it. Or I remember I joined a pool and didn't go because I didn't want people seeing me swimming, but I should have gone and done it. It would have been good for me. It would have been great for me, but I didn't do it, you know?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
we mentioned that in the five enemies of will because it's the
yeah,
fear of failure or judgment and yeah, yeah.
yeah. But you had mentioned something too about what we can do for the next 24 hours. I'm already
Hmm.
exercising. I'm committed to doing
Yeah.
my physio. But I know one thing I do that I wish I didn't do so much. I drink way too much Diet Coke, way too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to commit to
Mm-hmm.
not drinking it, but I'm going to commit to really only having like a can a day and seeing what I can do instead of the six I
What's
have
another?
now. Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
So what's another beverage that you like that you can drink instead of it?
Diet Sprite? No. Um,
No,
no.
wrong.
Water. Water. I got, and not only, and that's a double one because I don't drink any water and I drink too much pop. So I got to replace that pop with water. And I know it'll do me good. I know it'll be good for my body. It'll be good for my sleep. It'll be good for my health. It'll be good for everything. So at least for, I'm not going to commit to it forever, but for the next 24 hours, I'm going to commit to it. I'm going to replace my pop with water and
Okay.
I'll check in with you tomorrow and see
Lemon
how I
water,
did.
even lemon water. You might, I mean, lemon water is better, at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. No, I like water. I like water. I used to drink lots of it. I don't know what happened. I just stopped. And I know a goal. I stopped smoking, but now I vape, and I want to stop vaping. So that's going to be a
Mm,
goal I'm going to be working on too. So I'm gonna I put that down as something to start working on harder.
yeah,
And I know I can do it
yeah.
because I did have the willpower to quit smoking, which you did too, I think, right?
I did, yeah,
Yeah,
I
you quit
did.
smoking. I
Yeah.
didn't check in with you to see if you were still smoking, but um,
Mm, mm.
you know,
It's been a couple months.
and I've said it so many times in these podcasts that I will say something and think I'm going to do it. I mean I'm going to do it, and I don't do it. I do it. I used to do it with my therapist. I still do it with a therapist. Like yeah. Next week we're going to check in. Next week comes, and what have you done? Nothing. I meant to.
Yeah,
You know. It's like Yoda
yeah,
says, do or do not. There's no try. Like, I mean, you're either going to do it, which is will, or you're not going to do it. Like,
yeah.
and
I
there's no point keep saying I'm going to do something if I'm never going to do it. I don't know. I don't know.
I think that to me, there's a couple of great practices. One, it's write it down, put it on your desk, whatever. I started like a little motivational wall behind me there. I wrote a bunch of things down that I do
Oh yeah.
daily. Um,
Cool.
Text a friend, tell them, hey, listen, I'm trying to do this. Can you help me out? Like, I think that's a good one, or your partner. Yeah, I think it's okay to just think it in your head, but unless you write it down, it's not really there.
Yeah, it
It's
makes
kind
it
of in the
it makes it
ether.
real to write it down for sure. It makes it
It
real.
does. It does.
Um,
Yeah.
you know, I I have willed myself back to taking care of my addiction group. I never let go of it, but I make sure I've been going now. And a lot of times on Tuesdays, I don't feel like going. I don't. But I know there's
Yeah.
people that count on me. It's good for me, and I will myself to go do it. Like there's things you sometimes, the old fake it till you make it. Sometimes you got to just will yourself to do it, whether you feel like it or not, and then maybe eventually you'll feel like doing it, like exercise, like that, like anything. Just fake it,
Yeah.
think it's out there for a good reason because practice will make it real after a while.
I mean, I can imagine that focusing on the moments just as the meeting's ending and seeing the people that have come and what you've done, that's probably the thing that like you instead
Absolutely.
of like, oh fuck, I gotta drive, I gotta do this. If you like, I remember how I felt at the end of last week's meeting and it felt great.
Felt
I'm gonna
great.
focus on that.
You're right. You're
So
right. It feels almost immediately good as soon as I get there. People walk in. We were
yeah,
giving out hugs last week. Everyone was happy to see me. It was great. I mean, I focus
yeah,
on that. Um,
yeah.
do you know we got to wrap up? I came up with I was thinking hard about a recommendation. This one people are going to probably think is a funny recommendation, but I'm going to give it anyway. It's a movie, but it's also a great book. The book was by the subject of the book, Frank W. Abagnale. It's Catch Me If You
Mm.
Can.
Okay,
It
yeah.
was a movie with Tom Hanks and Leo DiCaprio. Now
I remember the movie.
to think that's about willpower, but this was a young man before he was 20, pretended he was a doctor, was a practicing lawyer, was an
Oh
airplane.
right.
He
Yeah, yeah,
willed
yeah, yeah, yeah.
himself to do anything. Like, I mean, things that do not seem he wrote $6 million worth of checks, which is obviously a bad thing, but he willed himself to learn how to make everything. He was a genius. And then even when it all fell apart, when they caught him, he was still just a kid, and he was supposed to be in jail
Mm,
for the rest of his life. He willed himself into a job with the FBI and then worked with them for
mm,
decades, became best friends with this guy that caught him, and made himself
mm,
a great life and made himself very important. And I thought, if that's not willpower, I don't know what it is, man. It might not be for a positive thing, but it's still
mm-hmm.
willpower. He was an
Yeah.
incredible, fascinating person, if not incredible, fascinating. And I thought, man, that's got to be willpower. I don't know. It's got to be something to
For
do
sure.
what that kid accomplished before he was 20. It doesn't even make sense. It doesn't even make sense.
Awesome. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember the movie. That's great. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah. I enjoyed it.
I read recently The Will to Change, which is a book by Bell Hooks. She was a poet, a teacher, um, and it's called The Will to Change, but it's the subtext is men, masculinity, and love. And it's an incredibly profound book. There's no question about it. It's written in a very loving and beautiful way. It's basically about patriarchy and the effects of patriarchy on society, but it's the effects on everyone. It's not just the effects on women and children, which is significant, of course. I will never take anything away from that, but it is also the effects on men
Hmm.
and the fact that a lot of the stuff that men deal with, kind of lack of emotional integrity, just expectations, cultural expectations, expectations of masculinity, all these different things really affect men. Um,
Yeah, sounds incredible.
yeah, it is an incredible book. It's not I wouldn't say it's a difficult read. It actually, as long as you're open-minded about it, it's written very, very lovingly. And it really, it kind of just,
And
it,
what's the
it's
title
all
again?
The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love by Bell Hooks.
Okay,
Um, yeah, and
check it
it's the
out.
courage to kind of it's the courage to, the will to feel deeply, be open, and just be emotionally connected. I think that everybody really wants. They just maybe don't know it. So it's well worth it. Highly recommend it. And it's very relevant, I think, right now, and it's been very relevant for a long time. But it was written, I think, 2004, so it's been around a bit. So that's my recommendation
That's
this week.
sounds like a great one. I'll check it out. And when I say like I'm a homebody and I don't like seeing a lot of people, but I tell you one thing, I think part of willing yourself to be a person is I definitely don't want to be alone. I mean,
No,
I want my wife, I want her to love me, I want my kids around. So, you've got to at least present yourself in a way that people are going to want to be around you, Like there's got to be, you can't just be a grouch slug and just awful to people and then think
no,
they're going to be with you.
no,
No, they might come see you out of they think they have to out of duty because you're their dad or whatever. But no one has to be
mm,
around you. There's no guarantees. So
no,
I think
no.
that's an important part of having the willpower to be a better person and a good person and the best you can do. I think that's part of it. I don't want to be by myself.
Yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
and I've been thinking so much lately about my age and my health and how I got a lot more years behind me that I feel like I've
Hmm.
wasted a lot of them. And just, I mean, seconds before this podcast this morning, I just found out an old neighbor of mine died way too young, and
Hmm.
her ex-husband. I saw something, and it kind of broke my heart. It was just like she was a great mom and just a great lady, and just to think she's gone. I think it was cancer. I'm not sure. I haven't been in touch with her for a while, but I'm thinking, I'm sure she wishes she was still here. Her children wishes she was still here, and we take too much for granted. It's a different subject. It's whatever. It's just because it just happened. It really hit me hard, and I feel bad for her. I feel bad for the family. I feel bad for all of it. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's cause for reflection, and I think there's lots of good sayings. I like sayings too, and I you mentioned the get busy living, get busy dying. I think I like the saying, today is the first day of the rest of your life. I don't know if it's exactly it, but
it's true.
we all have the ability to change. We can get rid of the past, and we can just like say, all right, today I'm going to do this, and if that works, and you build on that, then
And you've got to take, some agency in your life because when I said I care what other people think, it really doesn't matter. It's like if I want to change, I remember you and I talked about religion one time, and I was like, but my buddy's gonna think I'm crazy. But I don't want to get into that. But it's just like it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. It's
no,
what I think's important, and
for sure,
it doesn't really matter if even if Chris Crokin doesn't agree with what I'm doing. If it doesn't
it
really
doesn't.
matter. The only
No,
person,
it
my
doesn't.
wife, of course, because we live here together. But but me
Yeah.
doing anything positive, she's not going to be upset with,
As long as it's within reason, yeah,
Yeah.
it
Like,
does matter to me if you do certain things, and I'm like, "What are you stupid?"
yeah,
Whatever.
yeah.
But,
No, but I mean,
I
I
think,
can't just say
yeah,
I'm leaving, going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro tomorrow, and I'll see you in 3 years. We can't do something like that. But if I wanted to climb a mountain and I wanted to start working towards that, you know,
you could climb Mount Kilimanjaro in 5 years. I guarantee it. I guarantee it.
I think I could. I
You
think
could for sure. And I think, going back to the swimming thing before, just as we leave, sure, you take your shirt off, you don't feel great about yourself, and maybe people will look and they'll snicker or whatever. But I think the thing that at the core of that is the problem is, and again, this is talked about in the book for sure. It's the ability to be vulnerable. It's the ability to say, you know what, I'm here to swim because this is something I want to do, and I don't really give a shit what you think. I kind of do, and it might kind of be upsetting, but I'm willing to put myself out there and be vulnerable and just do it because I have to be me. I
right.
have to be me, and that's the thing that I think that's
And then maybe
really
by being me in 5 years, I will be proud of what I'm doing and proud of how I look. And who knows? You're
absolutely,
absolutely
yeah,
right.
yeah.
It's a tough. None of it's easy. None of what we talked about is easy to do.
No,
But
yeah,
nothing. The old saying, "There's not much that worth not much that's worth it is easy to do." I mean, it's part of it. Like, um, but again,
yeah.
I like doing this podcast. I feel better. It always gives me food for thought. It always improves my week and my outcome, my outlook. So I'm glad we did it. I think it was a topic worth. I think we came up with some more topics just talking.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But
The
anyway, thanks
fun, I
for your.
got.
Oh, go ahead.
I just like I typed out the final core message. So it's will is the daily decision to act in alignment with who you say you are, especially when it's hard.
Yeah, that's true. I'll try to think
That's
about that a little more today. I like that.
yeah,
I like that.
that's yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll put links to the
All
books
right.
recommended on the podcast link. I'll put a little link to
Yeah.
stuff. I'll maybe an Amazon link to the books or whatever. And
Awesome.
we'll I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Don't forget to like, comment, share,
Anything, anything.
please.
Please. We love it all. So, all right. Take care.
All right, brother.
All
Love
right.
you.
Love you too.
They don't need a man who's got it made. Always looking for that renegade. I calls it like I sees it. A spade is a spade. A good man is a thing of yesterday.
See ya.
Peace out.
Uh,